The 5 minutes are up. We're going to start the first presentation. And if there are any Key Clubbers watching, then welcome to the first day of UCR's Key2College. This is an event dedicated to teaching you about what college is and kind of the stuff we do. But today's focus is going to be more on the college application process and just some like general college tips. So this is going to be more dedicated towards sophomores and juniors, as you guys are probably starting your applications or thinking about it. So yeah, this is going to be the college application process for dummies. And then the presentation after this is going to go over kind of like more detailed things, along with just give some like general tips about what you should kind of think about and consider when you get into college. All right, so who is speaking? Hi, my name is Jonathan Guan. I'm a second year / sophomore at UC Riverside. My major is Education, Society, and Human Development, and my position is the Qantas Family Youth Chair. So I manage relationships with younger branches like Key Clubbers or Key Wins members. And just for like easy hobbies, I read a lot of manga and I watch a lot of anime. So yeah, it's pretty simple. So we're going to get into the first step of the college application process. And step one, be born. Congratulations, you've already started your first step in the college application process. So next, we're going to go into the kind of like the basics of the SAT and the ACT and everything else you need to know. So this is going to be dedicated to those like sophomores that are considering taking the practice SAT, or the juniors that are going to be taking the SAT for those college applications in the future. So, as I'm sure many of you have already seen, recently College Board has made some changes as to what is going to be part of the SAT. As of now, there's no more subject test and no more optional essay. But what is a subject test, you may ask? Well, they're tests that you can take on certain subjects of your choosing. Some schools require you to have taken certain subject tests, but now with their removal, it'll be no longer required from everyone. So you'll usually see subject tests required from like private schools, kind of like depending on where you go, you need to take specific subject tests. But yeah, the second portion of the change is the removal of the optional essay portion from the test itself. And so, although these two changes only incorporate portions of the SAT that are optional, the little bit of stress of knowing that you no longer have to worry about studying for subject tests or doing essay prep or like, all that kind of stuff, it's kind of something to celebrate. And I know like some people that have taken subject tests and like those can be a little tough, along with the essay portion of the SAT. It's a timed essay. It's still optional. Like even before the change, it was still optional. But some places, for most people, it was kind of recommended that you do the essay anyways. But now with its complete removal, you don't have to worry about it anymore. All right, so now we're going to cover kind of the differences between the SAT and the ACT. And before I get into greater detail about the differences between the two, whichever one you take is completely up to you. Kind of depends on like what you want to be kind of tested on. So SAT, you can see here, there's two main sections: evidence-based writing, reading and writing, and math. So I took the SAT, and it has kind of like a reading analysis portion, grammar portion, and then the math portion, which is pretty much just like algebra you'd kind of find in like your regular high school curriculum pretty much. And you can see there's a breakdown of the time it takes. So you have 65 minutes for the evidence-based reading, and then 35 minutes for the grammar portion, and then 80 minutes for the math portion. Now here, I took this directly from the College Board website, so maybe they already took off the essay portion. So, go to them for being kind of proactive, I guess. But I didn't take the ACT, but as you can see here, the ACT covers English, math, reading, and something most people like. Something that's kind of like odd to study for the ACT is science. So you can see there's also a number of questions and the time limit. So 75 questions and 45 minutes for English, 60 questions and 60 minutes for math, 40 questions and 35 minutes for reading, and 40 questions and 35 minutes for science. And you can also see there, they also included the optional essay. I don't know if that actually, I don't know if the previous change actually applies to just the SAT. ACT, I'm not so sure. But yeah, you can see here they cover the for both, they cover the content. So you can see both of them cover grammar and usage, algebra, reading comprehension. So that's kind of like analyzing text and picking out the right answer. And for science, for the ACT, it says here interpretation, analysis, evaluation, reasoning, and problem solving. Now, I don't know many people that took the ACT, so I don't really know what the science portion entails, but you could probably find some sort of practice for that. And that'll lead us into the second portion. How do I study for the SAT or the ACT? Well, the way that everyone studies differs from person to person, but when it comes to the SAT or ACT, options can get a bit limited due to the nature of the test. More than likely, some content from either test can actually be found in your regular school curriculum, but you'd probably just have a better time looking up online practice tests. A quick Google search of online SAT practice tests puts everyone's favorite STEM tutor at the top, Khan Academy. If you're lucky and have siblings or relatives that have taken the SAT, you can ask them for their prior practice tests and or books to help you study. Although definitely not applicable to everyone, utilizing old SAT tests will probably provide you with a great idea as to what you should expect when you deal with the real thing. And finally, if your school offers a practice SAT, which I hope it does, for sophomores and juniors, you should definitely go ahead and take it. By taking the practice SAT, you're truly gauging your ability for this test, but also familiarizing yourself with the contents, something that's definitely quite important. Now, if you're truly serious about getting as much SAT practice as possible, you could consider one more pricey option, and that's going to SAT prep classes like Elite. Um, if you're in the San Gabriel Valley, you've definitely heard of Elite. I don't know how far their like SAT prep classes go in terms of like location, but Elite, it's an SAT prep class where you pay quite a large amount of money, and they provide you with practice tests every week. So I think this is during the summer. They have their SAT kind of practice program, and they provide you weekly practice tests. So every day you're going to sit down in a classroom and just take a practice SAT test, much like you would kind of like in the setting of a real thing. And also, if you've seen people that go to Elite, you know that they have one defining characteristic, and it's that backpack you see at the bottom left. It's super popular, especially within people in the San Gabriel Valley. But yeah, Elite is definitely a more pricey It's actually no, it's not. It is a pricey option. It's quite an expensive option, but they provide you with quite a lot of material. So as I said, they provide those practice tests every week, and they also provide um, like really fat workbooks for you. Um, I think I have some, but let me see if I can show them off. Uh, okay. Well, I can't find them in my general vicinity, but they provide you with really thick like workbooks for that have tons of questions for each subject. So reading comprehension, grammar, math, and they probably provide one for science for the ACT. But yeah, if you really want to get the most practice, you can definitely consider Elite or any other SAT practice institute. But no matter what, no matter how you study for the SAT or the ACT, everything comes down to this word right here, preference. Um, there is no like huge advantage over taking the ACT or the SAT or the SAT over the ACT. And how you study for it is all up to you. For example, you don't have to spend all that money to go to Elite. For all I know, you could just show up to take the SAT not knowing anything, though I highly don't really recommend that. Or you could study for extremely long time, do a bunch of practice tests online, maybe ask like relatives or friends that have taken the SAT, ask them for their help. Just the way you study, it's all up to you, and you know the best way that you can study. So it's all preference. So next we're going to be going into Common App. The Common App. This is just going to be a kind of like a rough like guide or tour through the Common App, just to help you familiarize yourself. So when you do it, you can kind of know what you're looking for. So first of all, what is the Common App? So it's an application used by over 900 universities, and it greatly simplifies the college application process. So when you fill out the Common App, it's only one application for many schools. And although I don't have a picture of it, when you kind of go through the Common App and you find the schools you're looking for, there's a lot of schools, and most of them are going to be like, it's not going to incorporate UCs. You do have to remember that the UCs will have um, their own application, but I'm going to go over that too. But for the Common App, you're going to see just a lot of schools within the US. So more than likely, you'll be able to find the school you're looking for with the Common App. So we're just gonna go through a quick tour of the Common App. So first, you're just going to want to just make an account. Nothing too complicated there. Just make sure you remember your username and password. I really recommend writing it down, because unless you're doing this all in one go, which I don't recommend, it'd be pretty bad if you forgot your password at some point. So I definitely recommend you write down your login credentials for this website. So now that you made your account, something you have to do when you make your Common App account is to register as a first-year student. So it'll take you to this page, and this page is different from if you select a transfer student. It's going to show you a completely different thing with different things to fill out. So definitely do make sure to apply as a first year. And so this is your dashboard. This is kind of like the main page of the Common App, and you see different tabs up there. So the dashboard is just kind of where you're going to see everything that you need. My colleges. So this is the tab. So that's the tab where when you go into college search, you can pick the colleges that you're applying to and add them to the My Colleges list. And the Common App tab, that's where the whole application lies. That's where you're going to be filling out all the information that you need, and it's a pretty lengthy process. I won't be going into detail about it, because most of it's pretty self-explanatory if you just kind of look through and just kind of fill it out as you go. It's quite a lengthy application, but you got to do it. And so here is the college search. There's a pretty short picture, but it's a pretty simple thing. You can just type in the school you want to go to, and you can also just maybe find it on the list, maybe. Nothing too complicated here. And so, for example, I've added Adelphi University to my dashboard, and you can see in here, it says that the application is in process. And once you submit your Common App, it's going to show that for every school you apply to, the application is done. And so here is where you're going to start your Common App, and you can see on the side, there's profile, family, education, testing, activities, and writing. And there's a lot you need to fill out. It's going to take quite a while for you to actually finish the Common App, but you can just take your time with it. There's a lot of like documentation that you're going to need, stuff you're going to need to ask your parents for, but it's nothing too difficult. It's just kind of filling out information, putting in stuff. It's nothing too crazy. Oh, okay. So now we're going to go into the Common App essays. I'll be going over how to write a good college essay in a couple of slides. But as you can see, there's only one Common App essay required out of these 7 prompts. So I don't think I need to read them out for you. You can probably see them yourself, or when you do the Common App, you can pick whichever one you want to do. But yeah, if you want to take like a picture of these prompts, if you want to just kind of think about it, have a picture of it, you can do that. So next, we're going to be going into the UC schools. So the application process for the UCs is pretty similar to the Common App. It's just make an account, apply as a first year, and you're going to be met with this screen. And first of all, this is a really cool graphic that they did. I think it looks really nice, and it actually kind of like lets you know where each school is. So you see every UC on this map right here. And on the right side, you'll see about you. So this is where you're going to fill out your basic information like you would if you did the Common App. For campuses and majors, this is where you're going to pick the campuses and your major, which is, a topic for another day. But yeah, picking your campus and picking your major is something that's kind of just all up to you. Academic history. So this is where you're going to list your academic scores, maybe put in a transcript if you need it. Activities and awards. This is where you're going to kind of like list the stuff that you did in high school. So stuff like extracurriculars. This could also apply to your college essays, but we're going to get into that soon. You can also see scholarships and programs where they kind of show off and where you can apply to scholarships and stuff. And personal insight. So these personal insight is also commonly abbreviated as PIQ or personal insight questions. This is also pretty much the same thing as a college essay. And you'll see that for the UC essays, you're gonna need 4 of them. And if you read through the essay prompts, you'll kind of notice that they're pretty much the same as the Common App prompts. So all of them, or at least some of them, will talk about like leadership experience, going through difficulties, talents or skills, just all that kind of stuff. But I'll be going over how to write a good college essay now. So college essays are a pretty dreaded topic. They're probably the thing that takes the most planning and the most thought when it comes to doing your college application. So let's get into the meat and potatoes, the tips for a good college essay. So I'm going to be providing you with a couple of general tips to hopefully ensure that your essays and essay writing go as smoothly as possible. And although I can't provide you with insider information that'll make your essays good enough to be accepted by super mega Harvard, I've given some tips that are pretty easy to follow and also easily applicable just to make sure that anyone and everyone watching can utilize them. So with that being said, let's jump into the first point, picking your prompts and thinking about them early. Listen, I know procrastinating is very easy. In fact, just for your sympathy, this portion of the script that I'm currently reading from, I wrote at 2 a.m. last night. So I get it. It's easy to put things off for future you to deal with. And with also all this being said, make sure to check out the time management workshop tomorrow. Shameless plug. But college essays are something that require time and focus to complete. Now, I'm sure you've heard from friends or family or whoever, yeah, I know this one guy who turned in his essays like 10 minutes before the deadline and he got into mega Stanford. If you're confident enough to actually do that, then I can't do anything to stop you. But for the rest of the people out there, at least cement which prompts you want to write about. This will help you just naturally think of things to write about throughout your day. Just letting the prompt sit in the back of your mind is a good enough start, but just don't do this too late. Getting into the second point, make sure that you answer the question. The maximum amount of words you're allowed for essays is a mere 600, so you're really going to have to make the most out of it. You have to be detailed yet concise to make sure that you don't ramble on for too long and go over the maximum word count. But with all that being said, you have to make sure that your essay answers the question at hand. Context and background is perfectly fine for setting up your essay, but if the majority of your piece doesn't bother to answer the prompt, college admissions people are not going to have a good time reading it. The next tip is a bit more on the difficult side, but if you want to truly make yourself stand out from the other admissions or the other applicants, try to show that you're a good fit for the school. Is there something that resonates with you particularly well about some aspect? Maybe you know that the student body at that particular university is diverse and you like to explore things. talk about it. Doing a bit of research here and there about the school could help you find something that appeals to you. This special inclusion could give you the slight upper hand that you need to get you accepted. But make sure to not overdo it though. You need to remember that in the end, college essays are about you. They're about experiences in your life, the things that you have gone through, and are essays that have topics and ideas that only you know and can put on paper. You can stylize them however you choose, but in the end, the product and content, it's all up to you. The final point is quite simple. Just have someone proofread it for you. You could ask a friend, a relative, teacher, or anyone you think that's capable of providing some sort of criticism about your piece. Doing this will allow you to catch some issues that you may have not even considered. Maybe a grammatical change here, changing structure there. You get the idea. So next, you're probably going to hear this a lot, not just from your friends that are applying to college, but maybe even from yourself. Encountering writer's block is something that is completely normal, and I'm sure that at some point you've experienced it even during writing essays for any other class. But in my eyes, though, saying I don't have anything for a prompt in college essays is kind of a special kind of writer's block, but it's not something impossible to get over. As ridiculous as it may sound, everyone has something to write about in a college essay. Even if you live the most mundane, ordinary life, living in suburbs, finishing your homework by 8 p.m., being in bed by 11 p.m., getting 8 hours of sleep no matter what, wake up with no fatigue or stress, and have no notable issues since your last checkup, if you got that reference, I'm proud of you, there's still something to write about. And although I didn't end up actually doing this, one topic that I thought of wanting to write about a while after I had submitted my essays was my daily walk to school. Since I had zero period classes which started at 7 a.m., I had the pleasure of walking to school every morning. During those walks, I could enjoy the cold weather in the mornings, but I guess it's happening more because thanks global warming, and I could casually think or reflect on anything I wanted. I treated it as alone time for myself, and I honestly thoroughly enjoyed my walks to school. But it sounds pretty unexciting, doesn't it? It's because it is. But if you're in the camp of people that have truly nothing to write about, or absolutely can't think about anything to write about, try thinking of something that's dull or simple in your life and try to find its significance. How have your hobbies impacted you? Do you play video games? Maybe you can talk about that being an avenue of stress relief. Do you maybe collect something? Maybe you can talk about why you collect that certain item and why it has meaning for you. What about your friends, family, anything really? It's totally understandable to not be able to whip out your entire essay in one go. College essays take time and thought to be the best that they can be, and facing writer's block or not knowing what to write about is just a step that you need to take. If you yourself run into, I can't think of anything or I don't have anything, maybe just take a step back and think things through. Although it might take a while, search for a topic that you know you can whip out a quality essay for. You might not find that topic overnight. You might not even find it for a couple days. But if you give it time, I'm sure that you can come up with something great. So 6, financial aid. Oops, just kidding. There's a whole workshop on financial aid tomorrow, hosted by a very special Circle K person, a legend, one might say. So make sure to attend that. And with that, that's going to be the end of this presentation. I have some contact information here, and after this, after the next presentation, we'll open up the Q&A form. So if you have any questions, hold on to them until after the second presentation. And yeah, we're going to take a quick break into the next one. Yeah, let's set it like 5 minutes. I think that's okay. how do I study for the SAT or the ACT? Well, the way that everyone studies differs from person to person, but when it comes to the SAT or ACT, options can get a bit limited due to the nature of the test. Okay, so 5 minutes are up, and we're going to get into the second presentation. So this presentation is going to go a little more into detail about kind of like things about college. I'm still going to kind of go over the specifics of the application process, but it's kind of a presentation split in half. So we're going to talk about different schools and kind of different options, and then the last bit is going to kind of just go over like some college tips that you could need. And yeah, here we go. Um, so if you just tuned in, this is hi, my name is Jonathan Guan. I'm a second year sophomore at UCR. My major is Education, Society, and Human Development, and I am the Quan's Family Youth Chair. Nothing too crazy. So we're going to go over kind of the different options of schools that you have if you're looking to apply to these schools. So we're going to look at the California State Universities, 23 campuses. There's the University of California, just commonly abbreviated as UCs. There's 9 campuses. Private schools within California, there's 83. Community college, there's 114. And out of state schools, well, there's a lot of schools out of state. And just a note for community colleges, I'm going to go into more detail for this later, but note that just because you may be considering a community college doesn't mean that you're any less smart or important as someone that attends a private school or a UC, and the same goes for CSUs. So for admissions criteria for the CSUs, you're going to need a 2.5 weighted GPA in your A through G courses. But what are A through G courses, you might ask? Well, A through G courses are a series of high school classes that students are required to complete for admissions into CSU and UC schools. The courses you need consist of 2 years of history/social science, 4 years required of English, 3 years required but 4 years recommended of mathematics, 2 years required but 3 years recommended lab science, 2 years required but 3 years of foreign language, and 1 year required of VAPA or visual and performing arts, and 1 year of a college prep elective. College prep elective courses include stuff like econ and psychology. CSUs are also going to need your SAT and other standardized test scores, but remember, there's no more subject tests. All right, moving on to the UCs. So when it comes to the UCs, you're going to need a minimum required GPA of a 3.0, your standardized test scores, and you're going to need a list of all your AP, IB, honors, or college level courses taken. I'm sure that many of you already know the deal with taking a billion APs, but much like what I'm going to discuss later, take as many AP classes as you can handle. It's all about time management and personal preference, really. And something that I didn't actually know about the UC application process until doing research for this presentation is something called ELC for UC schools, or eligibility in the local context. It's a program that ensures that academically talented and deserving California resident students have the opportunity to join a UC. The ELC status adds value to an application and is something that is actually considered when applications are being reviewed. Being eligible for ELC requires no extra paperwork, as if you're an applicant from California, your application will automatically be screened for ELC eligibility. You can also see here neat stuff like your senior class schedule, any talents, awards, and achievements. And yeah, moving on to private schools. So private school applications are actually quite similar to the UCs, but this time with a little more added on. When applying to private schools, there's quite a large emphasis on letters of recommendation. If this is your first time hearing about letters of recommendation or you don't know anything about letters of rec, here's a quick rundown, but with a little bit of tips here and there. Letters of rec are letters written by anyone that can vouch for your academic ability, personal ability, or anything else about you. They're typically written by teachers, counselors, colleagues, etc. Asking for letters of recommendation is a whole new beast, though. When asking for a letter of rec, make sure that you've established a good relationship with that person. A letter of recommendation from a teacher that knows you well and can vouch for you is always going to be better and usually more high quality than a teacher that you barely spoke to and a teacher that you didn't care about their class. Secondly, you got to ask early. A good letter of rec takes time to write, and you're going to want the best letter of rec as possible from that person. The person you're asking for from a letter of rec might also have other requests backed up, so you got to make sure to ask early to make sure yours is completed. Also, you see here, private schools, some will require SAT subject tests, as I talked about before, but not anymore because of their removal. So I guess that's a little bonus. And community college. This is a pretty hot topic. When you're in high school, you usually want to attend the best university for you. Maybe it's a top tier UC or an amazing private school. But when you hear the words community college, you cringe and you probably toss it aside. You've maybe heard the phrase, oh my god, I failed X course and I'm literally going to community college. But after being in college for 2 years and talking to many people from community colleges, hopefully with this slide, I can kind of break down the stigma of community college for you because someone's got to do it. Before I get into things, as a disclaimer, the purpose of me talking about community college is to not make it so that you're going to pick a community college for 4 years over another 4 year university. Obviously, the choice is always up to you, but I just want to provide you with the information needed to make the best choice possible. First and foremost, the benefit that people are usually going to put at number one for the reasons to attend a community college is that it is significantly cheaper. With community colleges, there's no application fee, no housing fee, etc. You're literally saving thousands of dollars. Just so you can have an idea as to how much you're actually saving when you pick a community college, a very recent study found that the average cost of a community college in California is $1,636 a year. And the future statistics are all going to be in-state numbers. The average cost of a UC is $14,253, and the average cost of a CSU is $6,834. That's a lot of money saved. Secondly, let it be known that the education you get at a community college is not going to be worse than the education you get at another school. Just because it's a community college doesn't mean that the professors are some Joe Schmoes who read a Wikipedia article and now feel qualified to teach a full-fledged course. The professors you find at a community college are going to be just as good as anywhere else pretty much. And you can trust me on that. Lastly, the ability to transfer into a certain UC after a certain amount of credits is collected, which usually takes about 2 years, is an amazing option. Yes, it's true. People go from community college to places like Berkeley, UCLA, and USC. It's a real option, and it's something that you might consider. So, with all this being said, you should toss your stigma of community college aside. Maybe even let your parents know if they're the perpetrators of that stigma. Just let it be known that community colleges is absolutely not a bad option, and it's something that everyone can consider. So now we're going to go into some common terminology when you kind of go through the application process. So when it comes to schools you're applying to, safeties, matches, and reaches. So safeties are schools that you're almost always going to be accepted into. You easily meet all their requirements, but usually you're going to put these as a last resort because you know for sure that you can get into these schools. It's something these schools are something that when you apply to them, you probably don't have to stress out too much because you know that you have a very high chance of getting into them. And for matches, there's a pretty high likelihood that you will be accepted into that school. And you're going to try and meet all those requirements with some distinction for yourself. So this is where things will get a little bit more competitive. You know, maybe you can't completely ensure your acceptance into the school, but these will generally be a good match. This is the kind of stuff that these are the kind of schools that you're aiming for that will perfectly match your academics and stuff. Safeties, you're usually gonna aim for schools that require a little lower. And for reaches, these are schools that are unlikely to be accepted. You're going to be unlikely accepted into due to the high standards in competition, and you're going to need to meet all the requirements with a high distinction. So just to kind of make a note, safeties, matches, and reaches are going to be different for all people. You shouldn't compare yourself to others because someone put, you know, their like safety as your reach. You know, it's not something you should really compare yourself for. Everyone's different, and yeah, you know, these schools, you know, it's something that you have to consider, something you should organize, maybe make like an Excel sheet for. It'll help make things a little easier just to, you know, color code it, see which schools that you can get into, which schools you're confident get into, that kind of stuff. Keep things organized. So going into more common terminology, there's the early action, or abbreviated as EA. It's non-binding, and you can apply to as many schools as you want with pretty much no restriction. There's early decision. So if you get accepted during an early decision, you're committed to attending that school. So you're going to have to. So some schools you can apply with early decision, and if you get into them, you have to go to them. And restrictive early action, it's non-binding, but you cannot apply to any other schools for early decision or early action. And there's also just regular decision, nothing too crazy there. So we're gonna get to like kind of just some general tips. First one is be proactive. For incoming sophomores and juniors, you should utilize your time to start your applications. And for incoming seniors, you should start being proactive with the application during the summer. Do your research on where you want to apply and keep revising the application until the deadline. Also, submit your applications at least 1 week before the deadline to avoid admissions website crashing. Now, it sounds a little weird, but it definitely does happen. People actually really like to submit their applications late. And when you do that, there's a pretty high chance that the website isn't going to work for a short while. So you definitely do want to submit your applications at least a week before. And also just don't procrastinate on the application. It takes a while to fill out. So if you're filling out like really last minute, it's going to put a pretty big amount of stress on you. So if you don't know where to start or you need a helping hand, you can ask high school graduates that attended, or if you're lucky, you can ask high school graduates attending your safeties, matches, or reaches for some help. You can find some differences between applications and see if the college that they got accepted to kind of fits their needs and makes them happy. You can also find and read appeals to colleges that end up being successful. So you can find these, you usually find these online. These are like application stuff that people wrote. And you also find sample essays that are really good too. This is kind of like a good start for stuff if you don't really know where to go. And it's oftentimes a better example of what your college application should somewhat resemble. So maybe you don't need to exactly copy some Stanford students acceptance, but it'll give you a good idea as to the kind of things you need. So maybe your applications are over, you got accepted into a school or accepted into multiple schools. We're going to start kind of moving into some college things, so moving into the real deal. So make sure to attend some college spirit days that are open for new undergraduates and submit your statement of intent to register and definitely attend the school orientation. This will allow you to talk to completely new people and maybe make some early friends as you move into school. And also going to your school's orientation, I don't know if it's mandatory for everyone, but it's definitely something that I highly recommend. It'll kind of familiarize yourself with the campus, kind of let you know the things you do. And I know at least at UCR, you do your first set of registration for classes during orientation. So yeah, I definitely recommend going to it. And first, when it comes to selecting classes and times, you should consider the reality that you're going to have to wake up and go to an 8 a.m. class at some point. 8 a.m. classes aren't the most fun thing in the world, but you can also take some easier or introductory classes just to kind of meet people and build your connections. I've taken plenty of introductory classes, and I've met some people there that I've actually kind of keep in contact with. But going back to 8 a.m. classes, you can customize your schedule however you choose, but at some point in college, you're probably going to end up having to take an 8 a.m. class or maybe a class that's even earlier. And it's just kind of something that you have to accept. It's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe you could just, after your 8 a.m. class, go back to your dorm or go back to wherever you're staying and just sleep, take a nap until your next class. Because that's something I did. All right. So now that you're in college, here's a just a couple of pointers for you. So when you get into college, you have to remember that you are responsible for yourself. So you're going to be doing a lot of things that you probably haven't done before, but remember that everything you do is just on your shoulders now. So you're going to have to, do your own laundry, budget your own money, and you're going to see that money is a pretty big thing among college students, among anyone really. You need to buy your own dorm materials and be sure to take advantage of student discounts. You can find student discounts pretty much all over the place, I think. Stuff like, Spotify, Apple has student discounts. Just there's a ton of student discounts wherever you go. Uh, like some like eating places or restaurants near your campus, they might have student discounts. So you definitely have to make sure to take advantage of those. Just, save some money whenever you can. Also, find scholarships whenever you have time. So you can pretty easily find scholarships. Um, you can kind of go to your like financial advisor, like financial department at school, kind of ask them for help there, or you can just kind of look online if you need to. Scholarships are everywhere, and if you have the time or if you want to, if you need to, give them a shot. Maybe you see if you can get it. Also, another great tip is find a job or an internship, or even shameless plug, you can even join Circle K. You have to make sure you get involved. So with all of this freedom, you're gonna have the chance to find what you can what kind of builds you up, what kind of stuff that you want to do in your college life. Also, with this being said, there is also a there's like a job opportunities workshop tomorrow, so make sure to attend that. But yeah, getting involved on campus, no matter what you do, just make sure you do something. You're going to want to make the best out of your college experience. So you're going to want to just do things here and there. They're going to appeal to you, join a club that interests you, and maybe Circle K could be appealing. Maybe you don't know. And also, finally, making friends with upperclassmen is pretty good. Um, Making friends with upperclassmen has quite a lot of benefits. Like, for example, if you make a friend that's in the same major as you, they can tell you about certain professors, what some things you should maybe take advantage of with these professors, maybe what they don't like, what they do like, what can net you some extra credit. All that kind of stuff is going to be pretty valuable information. And so maybe just not even like on the academic side, making friends with upperclassmen can also provide you with like just some experience about the school, what you need to know, you know, it'll help. And so these are kind of more academic tips. Um, when you get into college, the freedom and the lack of like, parental supervision, or kind of like the lack of, you know, just like the freedom itself, it's great, but just make sure it doesn't get to you. You have to make sure that you are going to class, because you are paying however much you're paying money to get an education, and that is what you go to college for. Yes, it's true, college has like parties and, you know, like all the other stuff that could kind of drag you away from your studies, but you have to make sure that you're paying money to get an education. And so you should get that education whenever you can. So make sure to go to class. Also, office hours is good. You should at least go to office hours one time within your span of being in that class, like meeting with your professor, maybe just talking with them. It's a good way to get to know them. And if you need letters of rec in the future, this might be a good way to start. Also, you might hear this a lot, but college, like people will say that office hours um, isn't entirely academic, and that's definitely true. You don't need to go to office hours just to talk about academic questions, but obviously that'll kind of make things easier. You can go to office hours just to talk. I've heard many professors like say to the classes, when you go to office hours, you don't have to talk about things that are academic all the time. You can just, have a casual conversation with them and they won't mind, because professors, they leave their doors open. Professors and even TAs, They leave their doors open, expecting students to come in, and well, they'll take anyone's company really. This is kind of a subjective point, but if you can, um, I would say you should live on campus. Living on campus is like living in dorms or anything similar. It's gonna provide you with an easy avenue to like places like dining halls. You can easily make new friends that live in the same dorm as you. It's a pretty easy way to just like start your college experience, I would say. So living in dorms is something I would definitely recommend. Definitely do your research on like which dorm you want to live in. Some schools will have like newer dorms and older dorms, and most of the time you're gonna want to pick the new ones because they're pretty nice. At least most of the time, they'll be pretty nice. Also, time management and organization is definitely something you're gonna need to consider because in high school everything is kind of laid out for you. You go to your counselor, you talk about your schedule for next year, and you have just a list of classes that you need to do. You take it from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 2:50 p.m. and that's just kind of your day. But when it comes to college, you can apply for classes whenever, or your schedule is up to you. You decide the classes that you're going to take, and that requires some time management and organization. With all this being said, there is a time management workshop tomorrow, so definitely do remember to check it out. Something I would recommend is using Google Calendar. And although I'm no expert on it, something I did do, something I started doing, is just when you get into class, just go through your syllabi, take all the assignments, and just throw them into Google Calendar. This will like remove any stress you have about worrying about assignments and their due dates because they're all right there. And it's something that I wish I started doing sooner, and it's something I definitely recommend. And finally, mental health. So mental health is a pretty big topic. I'm not going to go like super into detail, but mental health, it's depends on the classes that you're going to take. Oh, sorry, I didn't change the slides. There we go. Um, Mental health, it's something that's pretty huge. Make sure that you take the classes that you're gonna need, but don't overload yourself. I've seen some first years take like a ton of classes, and I don't even know how they manage. But when it comes to your college experience, it's all up to you. But make sure that you get the best out of it. And finally, this is just some general tips. Um, Something very important is to keep yourself clean. Shower every day, you know, brush your teeth, and when you shower, make sure to wear shower shoes. You don't know like what goes on or what's on those floors. And when you shower in a public area like the public dorm showers, you're gonna want to wear shoes. This is super important. Um, for like a quick story, one time when I walked into the boys' bathroom, there was peanut butter all over the walls and all over the floor. I'm not joking. Uh, I wish I put the picture of it now that I'm thinking about it, but it was pretty gross. And just make sure when you shower, wear shower shoes. It'll. I'm not even gonna say like thank me later. It's just something that you need to do. Also, free food. Um, if you have a meal plan, maybe you don't have to worry about this as much. But if you don't plan on going with a meal plan, there's usually on campus there's going to be a lot of opportunities for free food. Maybe um, some food truck is coming over and they're giving out some free food. Maybe your um, student body, maybe they're providing free food for an event. Just make sure to take advantage of it. It's nothing too crazy, but if you can, I'd recommend it. Next thing, you don't have to be best friends with your roommate. Um, I've heard some like horror stories with people's roommates. Sometimes they smell bad, they don't do things correctly, their stuff's all over the place. But handling roommate issues it's something that you need to work with. Um, I was lucky enough to have a pretty good roommate because he's been my friend for a while. But for the people that I've heard have pretty bad roommates, you're gonna have to make sure that you work out issues with them. Um, don't let things kind of bottle up. That's pretty bad, and you'll probably develop like a negative attitude towards them. But a little talking goes a pretty long way. So just if you don't like your roommate, or if you don't like have a great connection with them, you know, just like communicate once in a while and try to get things to work out. Also, if you don't need a car, if you don't need a car, you shouldn't bring it. Um, Schools will usually have pretty expensive parking passes. So to save yourself some money, if you don't need the car, especially as a freshman, you shouldn't bring it. And finally, you miss all the shots that you don't take. There's so many things you can do in college. There's like a million and one things. There's different clubs, some organizations you can join. And if you don't feel like joining them, sometimes it's okay, but I would recommend kind of just getting out of your comfort zone and just trying something new. It'll like you're paying however much money you're paying for your college experience, and you're going to want to make sure that you get everything out of it. So join organizations, do this, do that, talk to people, make connections. That's kind of a big thing about college, forming connections with people. And yeah, just do it. Um, get out of your comfort zone. It's something that'll kind of help benefit you in the future too, because people you're going to talk to, the people you're going to talk to, the people you're going to make friends with, who knows, they might be, you know, the next big thing in your life. And of course, be safe. Um, there's a lot of like safety precautions. Don't do drugs. That's pretty bad. And also, most schools will provide condoms for free in the health center. So just keep that in mind. And finally, there is a Q&A form. So if you'd like to submit any questions and have them answered, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But do note that there's a rough 20 to 30-second delay between the YouTube stream and what I'm saying. So if you submit any questions, might not see them for a couple seconds, but I'm still here to view them. So yeah, the form's open. If you have anything, feel free to submit it. But otherwise, that is it for this presentation. If you're here to listen, thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, still here to view them. So yeah. Also, you can see on the screen, um, the Q&A forum is at tinyurl.com/collegeappqs. So if there's anything you want to ask, um, feel free to put it in. Otherwise, we'll be answering questions for a little bit. But if there's nothing, then this day one will be over. Put on some music for now. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any questions for today. That's all good. I think that'll conclude day one. Make sure to come out for the presentations tomorrow, starting at 1 p.m. Same as today. We're gonna have workshops on time management. Oh, turn off the music. Actually, hold up. There's gonna be workshops on time management, how to get a job, and financial aid. There's gonna be really good speakers for tomorrow, so I highly recommend you go. And yeah, I think that'll be it. Thank you for coming.